lagging. There it goes. All right, now we're good. Now it's all
What are you
good.
doing, man? What the hell? Are we on now?
We're
You're
on
good
now.
now,
It was
Dave.
lagging. You're good.
Welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer with The Athletic. That's Cam, our new and temporary producer. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. We got a big guest today, right up your alley. Former Braves reliever, well, current Braves reliever, Collin. Sorry, Collin, I wasn't trying to break any news to you there.
Yeah, what do we need to know? Did I miss something on Twitter?
Braves reliever, one of the keys to this year's very successful and surprising to some people bullpen. And I say surprising, Collin, only because you guys have had kind of a string of injuries, and I know injuries happen in baseball, but you guys have overcome the loss of some really good relievers this year, either for the whole season in the case of Luke or for weeks at a time, like with Tyler. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, man, we're built for the long haul. I think Alex and his team in the front office did that on purpose. You know, they brought a lot of depth in, they brought a lot of guys in, and we've seen how necessary that is.
I mean, when you lose off last year's, you moved you obviously changed, you move Kenley into the closer role, so you switch that up. But then you lose basically three of the key guys from last year's core four for long stretches, and in Luke's case, the whole season. And you guys really haven't missed a beat. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
everybody keeps waiting for you to slow.
Yeah, we've had some guys step up and just throw big innings for us. Whether it's at the end of the game.
Yeah,
like AJ. I mean, AJ stepped in. Beautifully. He's had one of the best seasons as a reliever in the game right now. Kenley coming in and doing his thing, and Will being flexible to be able to, he's been a closer for a couple of years now and be able to come in and, Eric knows, like, guys who are in that role, it's can sometimes be tough to transition backwards or back to a fireman role or, coming in bases loaded. It's just different than getting that clean ninth. And so, Will's been nails down there, and and honestly, for me, I'm still kind of learning how to pitch in the bullpen. I'm still kind of new to it, so I'm picking these guys' brains every day. Him and Darren O'Day's been down there and super helpful for us. And
Chavi's been huge too.
I mean, Chavi, we call him Coach. Coach has been doing this.
Chavi's coach,
it seems like forever, and he's always tinkering down there, always trying to figure out kind of what the best way is, because he's like sinker cutter on both sides of the plate. But now he's mixing in changeups and curveballs, and he's the ageless one.
He's amazing, man. Every time the Braves get him, he comes over and pitches like twice as well as he was pitching before they got him.
He's the best.
But so if he's coach, what's Darren O'Day? Grandpa?
Darren, yeah, right. No, he'll get mad at us about that. Darren's been like, we were actually looking up the most appearances of anybody in Major League Baseball, active players, and I think Darren's top three. I think it's Joe Smith,
amazing guy,
Clippard, and then I think Darren's right up there around 800. Kenley's up there too. Kenley's at like 770, something like that. So yeah, it's coach just Chavi just went over 1,000 innings. So we got some guys in this bullpen that we probably got the oldest bullpen in baseball. I mean, I got to think easily.
And I talked to you too about Kenley. What's amazing about him is not only does he have all those appearances, but almost all of them were as a closer with the Dodgers. I mean,
tons.
There were some high stress innings.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing this for a long, long time. And when he wasn't closing for him, he was setting up, and he was kind of in that same that fireman. You're going to get the meat of the lineup every seventh or eighth inning every day that you're winning. So, and they were winning a lot. So he's done this for a long, long time.
I know there's exceptions, obviously, guys who are closers for the whole year and have terrific seasons. Or like the year Eric had a sub-1 ERA, but it seems like in a bullpen, there's always a guy that's like, Mentor did it for almost half a season, where he was arguably the best reliever in baseball this year. And then you go through a little bit of a lull, but somebody else steps up and has a hot hand. It seems like that's the way it is in the bullpens nowadays.
Yeah, you kind of have to have it that way, because I mean, Eric knows. I remember watching him and Johnny and Craig throw every day. I mean, every day, and if you weren't up, you were getting up. You were getting up, you were getting hot. So being able to do that over the long haul over a season is just, it's not super sustainable anymore, especially with starters
Yeah.
Starters not going 110,
Absolutely.
120 pitches every night. So you have to have like on any given night, you got to have really 5 guys available. And those 5 guys, they can't just be like, well, we're just going to eat innings. They got to be guys
No.
they got to get outs.
Yep.
And we've had Dylan Lee come in and do an amazing job. We've had Jackson Stevens come in and just, do what he does, which is just pitch. He knows how to pitch. Strider at the beginning of the season coming in and striking the world out. We've had guys come in different situations, different scenarios, and really pick us up when we need it, especially those back end guys who need a day off here and there. It's been really like next man up, and that's kind of been our whole MO.
Yeah, the composition of the pen has changed so much over the course of the year. Whereas, like you were talking about in the old days when they had the old Ventbril trio, for instance, your starters, if they had a good start, would get you through 7 innings or 6 innings. And those 6 innings, they'd hand the ball to those guys for the lead, 7, 8, 9. It's over. And now it's starter might go 4 or 5 on any given night, not max, but just about anybody else. Or Kyle's been 7-inning guy, 6-inning guy this year, but for the most part, you don't know if you're going to get more than 4 or 5 a lot of nights, and you're going to have guys pitch 5 innings to relieve some nights.
We've been honestly, we've been super lucky to have our starters be as workhorsey as they are this year. Everybody, even Charlie, when he was struggling, he'd find a way to get through 5, 6, 7 innings.
Yeah,
which is kind of for me is really that's what you're looking for, and somebody who has been around for a while. That's what you're looking for in starting pitchers. A guy that you're going to pay money to go out there and get those innings, eat those innings, and not just like I said, not just get out there and you're giving up 5, 6, 7 runs and the game's out of hand, but keeping us in the game the whole time. With the offense that we have too, you've got to be aware that, especially the back end of the game against other teams' bullpens, we've got a chance of scoring a lot. So keeping it close, keeping it within striking distance is the key. And then handing it off to these guys in the back of the bullpen who have just done it over and over again. It's a good formula.
I think people underestimate the value of a starter that even if he gives up 3, 4, 5 runs, if he gives you 6 or 7 innings instead of getting knocked out in the second inning, people don't realize how much that screws up things when that happens.
And so last year being in Tampa, it doesn't always work that way. So teams are running things a lot differently now. And last year in Tampa, it was pretty much like 5 innings. You knew you were going to get 5 innings max from a starter. And then you were going to go to the bullpen, and it was going to be, maybe 6, 7, and then at 8, 9, 2 other guys, or you're going to go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And, I ask Eric about this. How does it feel when you're down there and the guy's got 75 pitches, maybe 80 pitches on a day?
You're stretching in the second inning.
Oh, dude, everybody's sweating. Like you're just like your hands are sweating. You're nervous. You're waiting when that phone's gonna ring. You're like looking over to the dugout. You're like, is somebody moving? Somebody moving over there?
They always pan to the manager, and whenever shit starts getting hairy in like the second or third inning, I wish they'd pan to the bullpen and watch everybody start frantically stretching and pacing around. I mean, that tells you a lot more how much time the starters got left than, just a still shot of the manager standing there, looking a little upset. It's like, look down in the pen and everybody's kind of just in panic mode, stretching as fast as they can. And I think you guys are lucky because Snit's pretty consistent with how he does it. But there's some bullpens where it could be anybody but the closer after the second inning. And it's hard to explain to people how that stress piles up over a season.
Every day you've got to be locked in from if you're a guy like me or a guy like most guys in the bullpen from the first inning through the 27th out, whatever that is.
Yep.
And we've had like 3 rain delays, 3 hour plus rain delays in the last couple weeks. Yeah. So that's like a solid 4.5, 5 hours of just mentally you've got to be in it.
I got 30 minutes in me.
It's exhausting. And it's exhausting. You might only play for like 30, 45 minutes tops.
Yep.
But you've got to be mentally aware and mentally in the game.
Yeah.
And over the course of 162, that's when they talk about like the dog days of summer and how much of it's a grind. It's a grind up here, really. Yeah. Like you're not allowed to turn it off.
Yep.
So you got to figure out ways to kind of be able to bring it back down, come back down to earth. And being at home, like we were talking about before with Eric, being at home in Atlanta, having my kids here, having my family here, having my friends and community,
It's two separate worlds.
It makes it easier. It makes it easier to kind of flip that switch when I need to.
You're not going back to an empty apartment or a hotel room after the game, after a home game.
Exactly. You're coming back home. I'm coming back home to my plants, coming back home to my kids and my garden in the front yard. And it's just, it is home. It feels like it.
Yeah. And once you guys got hot in the first start of June, you got starters were, like you said, were pitching. I mean, almost every night going 6, 7 innings, 5 minimum. And you had a real rhythm going. And also you guys have been lucky this year to avoid rain delays until recently. It was crazy. I was talking to another writer. You had one rain delay in the first half. And we've had years where we've had 10 to 15 rain delays in the first half.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't have one at home until the midpoint of the season, 81 game.
It's crazy because I've been playing inside for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Right. So between Houston and Tampa, I never had to think about it, right? Like I was looking outside through the windows in Houston being like, oh, it's about to tornado.
Right.
But we're still playing. You see the clouds rolling in over Truist though. And you're like, ooh, we got like 25 minutes tops.
Yeah.
So you're like, hey, let's go. Let's get this inning going. But yeah, we've been pretty lucky so far. We're going to get our rain. It's going to be Atlanta in the summer.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's here now. Is hydration more important when you're pitching for a team like the Braves outside? Half your games are outside in the heat than it is when you're, inside with Houston and Tampa.
100%. I mean, you're always thinking about hydration. Like I'm drinking my coffee right now, but then I'm like, all right, now I gotta crush 3 bottles of water before I get to the field, and then you got to drink your hydration drink, and then over the course of the game, you got to make sure that you're like getting the carbs in you too, because you can't just drink a lot of water, or else you're just like no energy.
Yeah,
it's a whole different ball game being outside and sweating, and you can lose up to 15, 20 pounds in a season if you're not like really on top of it. So you gotta make sure.
My weight would shift 8 pounds every day in Atlanta. I'd get to the field at 210 and I'd leave at 218.
It's wild, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
For people who might not know your background, Collin, you were born in Illinois, but your parents moved to Georgia when you were real young, right?
Yeah, so my whole family, generations back, they're all from Georgia, and me and my little brother are the two Midwest kids of the entire bunch. But we moved back when I was 7. So the Midwest has a soft place in my heart for sure. But I'm an Atlanta kid, as far back as I can be.
Went to Providence Christian Academy, which is in Lilburn, same northern Atlanta suburb for people who aren't from here, that Matt Olson and Jeff Francoeur are from. And where their high school alma mater, Parkview High, is located.
Oh yeah, yep. I remember I watched a bunch of games over at Parkview growing up because they had really, really good baseball. And I remember watching Jeff's like state championship series. And, he's the stories are legendary, and he can tell them.
Jeff will tell them all. He'll tell them all to you very gladly.
He was unbelievable.
He was, and so was Olson, man. I think they won 2 titles with Olson and a mythical national championship as well when he was there. So he has that on Frenchie.
Yeah. I mean, he was. We found an old Baseball America in the clubhouse the other day, and we had a picture of like 17-year-old Matt in there just putting out like just video game numbers.
Yeah. Crazy numbers. But Frenchie, of course, was the 2-sport star there, the legend. So the Clemson football recruit. So you were undrafted out of high school, but you were an 18th rounder out of Berry College, which I don't think many people are familiar with. A really cool, pretty looking school. It kind of has that Duke Gothic architecture, doesn't it? A little school in Mount Berry, Georgia, up there.
It's amazing. Rome. Yeah, Berry College.
Really
it's
pretty.
in Rome, Georgia. So Rome Braves. I think they're their high A or low A team with the Braves now.
Yeah, they've been both. Now they're high A.
But yeah, Berry College is up there, and it's an amazing school. It's a liberal arts college, kind of in the middle of the mountains up there, and
really
started by Martha Berry way back in the late 1800s. And those buildings, those Gothic buildings that are built kind of up on the hill, were built by Henry Ford. So at the very beginning of the Ford Foundation, when they started it, Henry donated all the money to build these buildings, because it was essentially a working college where everybody who went to school there also had to work on campus. And it was, really like close to the ethos of Ford and kind of what they were all about. And so Martha Berry and old Henry had a good relationship, and those buildings are incredible. They look amazing. And I went up there not too long ago, and still really close with Coach David Beasley, the baseball coach up there. And man, it's a cool place. If you ever get a chance to be up in the mountains or go see a Rome Braves game, stop by the campus, take a look.
Any other
I'm
big
looking
leaguers
at it right now. It looks cool.
Yeah, man, it looks kind of like small Duke.
Yeah.
Any other big leaguers from Barry?
So I'm the only guy that has ever made it to the big leagues from Barry College. A couple guys have been drafted out of there. But yeah, it's a good baseball school, but we were NAIA when I was there. I think they're D3 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So good baseball that's come through there, but it's not, it wasn't D1. It wasn't, wasn't the big time schools. When I got a chance to go play in Cape Cod, it was the first time I'd ever in my entire life played against, guys of that caliber.
Uh-huh.
So trying to see where you match up against that was a fun and interesting dynamic for me.
18th rounder. So for everybody, stop paying attention to the draft this year after the first or second day. There's plenty of people that get drafted later.
Yeah, it was when we had I think we had 50 rounds or like 40, 42 or somewhere up there rounds back in the day when I was drafted in 08.
Now you might have been getting nervous. It's only 20 rounds now.
I would have been a free agent sign for sure. Like I wouldn't have gotten drafted,
right?
Especially guys. I mean, every guy's coming out throwing 95 plus now. Like you got guys that are at the amateur level really, really advanced. And it bodes well for our game, I think, because guys are getting better and getting younger. But yeah, this game would have passed me by a long time ago for sure.
Oh, they might have seen that spin. They got those Rapsodos too.
Yeah, they do.
They might have seen that.
I didn't know what that was back in the day. Like I just knew like I had a pretty good curveball at that. I didn't have a slider, so I just had a pretty good curveball. Fastball was in the like low 90s, 90 to 92, which it still is. So there's not a lot of difference at this point. I'm kind of the same guy I've always been, except instead of a 12-6 curveball now, I throw a lot more sideways curveballs.
Yeah. Did you pay attention at all or see anything about the four guys that the Braves drafted? They drafted hard throwing right-handers and with their first four picks, 3 of them high school and 1 college guy.
We watched a little bit of it when it was going on, I think in the clubhouse. It might have been during one of those rain delays one of those days. But it's funny because we when you're watching it at the big league level and these guys have been around for a while, it's funny to watch big league guys watch high school guys get drafted and just I mean, to be fair, they were like giving all these dudes a really hard time, being like, "Oh, I'm taking that ball deep." They're showing highlights of this kid throwing, 97 from the mound.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, I'm taking that way back." You got Kyle Wright, like, "Oh, dude, I'm going backside from the left side on that." Like, it's not even close.
Yeah, they drafted a kid from Texas who was throwing 100 before he had TJ surgery in April.
So he's going to come back throwing 110.
Yeah, if he's like Strider. So now it's funny because you hear, Dana Brown, of course, drafted Strider. So now they're looking for the next Strider. So they're willing to take more of a risk on some of these guys, knowing, the body type, the type of spin they put on the ball. So they're looking for the next Strider, who was a 4th round pick.
Right. And he's special, man. He's a special player. He kind of from the top all the way down. He takes care of himself really well off the field.
Yeah.
In the weight room. Nutrition wise, he's very particular about how he prepares, and then what he's able to do on the field is different. It's just different. His fastball. There are some guys that throw hard fastballs, but his really does jump. It looks like when you're playing catch, you got to like lock it in. You know what I'm saying? Like Eric, if you play catch with the guy where you're like every day we got to lock it in, or else I'm gonna get square one up in the chest.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw Al Leiter was breaking it down. They were showing where the average extension is for most pitchers is like 6 feet coming off the thing. And he's a guy who's only 5'11" or whatever he is. And he gets like an extra 6 inches of extension because his stride is so long coming off the rubber.
Yeah.
He's so strong with those legs.
Yeah. He uses his lower half really, really well. I've talked to him a bunch about it. And he was like, when he was coming back from TJ, he kind of had to teach himself how to throw again, like really like tinker with his delivery to make it as efficient as possible. So he was watching a lot of Yu Darvish, trying to figure out how to get into his legs a little bit more. And, he always had a quick arm, but being able to utilize that and be able to spin the ball efficiently and through the top of the zone. He does it as well as anybody right now. And it's when he's throwing strikes, when he's being aggressive, and when he's landing that slider. Yeah. I mean, you've seen what he can do to a lineup.
that giddy up that he has on that fastball. I mean, it's not rising, but it looks like it is because where it's released so low, and that spin he's got on it.
So to the average, I don't know, for all the listeners, like to the average eye from a hitter, a ball is going to take off from the hitter's hand and go down towards the zone on a certain trajectory. And his ball just stays a little bit more true. It doesn't drop as much. So to your eyes, it really does look like the ball is gaining speed on you as it's coming towards you.
Yeah.
And it really does it. We used to call it hop. It'll hop. It looks like it hops over a guy's bat.
Yeah. The launch angle, tough to launch angle him.
Yeah.
You see it too. It's one of those things where kind of like Ian Anderson was last year, until guys see him in person, they can watch all the video they want, but Ian's arm slot and how different it is. Strider's fastball, you see it, and I mean, he'll miss middle, and they swing under it. And then if he climbs, they just chase it up. But it tells you that it looks so hittable to a hitter, and then it just disappears on him. But it's not like a breaking ball disappearing under the bat. It's disappearing over the bat because it's just got that trajectory to it. He's been fun to watch.
He's going to continue to be. He's like can't miss baseball for me right now.
Yeah.
So he's one guy that actually it really did benefit from having TJ surgery because he learned how to pitch, like you were saying, and he pitches better now than he did before he had it.
It really does. It kind of exposes your work ethic, and how committed you are to the craft. Because when you have TJ, I've been lucky enough not to go into the knife yet, but I've had a lot of friends and a lot of teammates who have, and kind of this differentiating factor between guys who come back and guys who really have a hard time. There's a ton of variables, but one of the main keys is, are you committed to making sure that you're mechanically sound when you come back? Because if you're just trying to do the same things, the same patterns as before, kind of that's what got you there in a lot of ways. And so you kind of have to be really committed to making sure that when you get back on the mound, that you're throwing the ball efficiently.
Yeah, this guy's work ethic is, it's beyond reproach. His work is how hard and how much he wants to win, and how much he's put into studying it and trying to leave no stone unturned.
You see so many guys try to use their legs and they wind up just jumping, not staying back, getting way too out front, and then just spinning off the ball. The way he stays into his legs, you can tell he put a lot of work into that. Yeah,
there's a lot of squats behind that. Being able to hold that position for as long as he does, coming down the mound. Yeah, you're right. You've seen guys like trying to like plant and jump forward and do all that stuff, and you really do have to be able to ride that hill all the way down, and he does it as well as anybody.
Luke was telling us about his now legendary stretching routine before the game. We saw a little bit of it when they had that funky at Arizona. They had the weight room right off the concourse where we walked through the hallway, and you could see you guys in there. It felt really weird to look at the guys in there before the game, but we saw a little bit of it. But Luke was telling us he gets in positions that people are like, "What in the hell are you doing, man?" That's
he's done a lot of yoga in his day, and he's still young. He's 23, 24 years old, so he's got a long way to go. But he's the things he's done so far are pretty cool. And those stretches are like we can all try to do them. There's no way to do that unless you've been stretching like that for the last 10 years.
You can't fake that.
No.
So you debuted at 25, 4 years after the Mets drafted you in the 18th round, and you were a starter and reliever at that time, right? So a little both.
I had been a starter my entire minor league career, and then got to the big leagues, had a couple starts, and then kind of the way it worked back then, and with a lot of teams, was the minor league starters would come up if you needed a spot start, and then if not, you kind of get moved to that long guy position in the bullpen. And so that's kind of what I did. I made, I think, 3 or 4 starts with the Mets that August and September, and then got moved to that long guy role for the next X amount of time, really until I got to Houston.
Really, that's what Max Fried did when he came up. He pitched in relief initially for a couple of years, a spot here and there, and then took off after they made.
It's a hard role, long man. I don't wish it on anybody.
I keep talking to so Jackson Stevens has been kind of doing that this year, and kind of talking to him through it is interesting, because having to do that role, you have to be prepared for just about every situation, right? You got to be prepared to come in early. Like you're the first guy up if somebody gets in trouble. So you got to be prepared to warm up early, sit down if he gets through that, and then come back on the backside of the game if it's if it's not a save situation, if you're up or down like 5 or 6 runs, and you've got to be able to go multiples at the drop of a hat, and come back if you need to, kind of that next day. So it's kind of a thankless job in a lot of ways, but it's super important for any successful bullpen to have. And we've I don't think we can understate how well of a job he's done this year.
So you were 25 when you debuted. I think, Eric, you were about the same age, right?
No, I was 21.
Oh, you're 21.
Early, yeah.
Baby.
When you came to the Braves, you were how old though?
I was 24 when I came to Atlanta.
And really started to get established.
Yeah.
So what did Collin, when you look at like Michael Harris, who's 21, youngest player in the majors, doing what he's doing, can you imagine doing that at that age, 4 years before you even major debut?
Dude, I was in Kingsport, Tennessee in rookie ball at 21 thinking I'm never going to get out of here. I had four other college right-handed starters ahead of me in that rotation in rookie ball. And I'm like, this is where I am. This is like where my career ends. Like I did the best I could do. So yeah, he's coming up hitting like homers and stealing bases and running down fly balls in big league games and in the NL East in a playoff push. And there's going to be an at bat that comes down to him at the end of this year when he's 21 years old that he's going to put us over the top. And it's going to be par for the course for what he's done so far.
Yeah. He looks so comfortable.
He's pretty advanced.
You've been in both leagues in the last couple of years, so you've seen pretty much all the center fielders. I mean, I know it's early and it's crazy to even say this, but I haven't seen a current center fielder that's, I don't want to say better than him. I don't think that's as good as him.
I mean, there's some good guys in this game. I mean, we're about to see somebody this series, and Mike Trout, that has been doing it like this for a long time. But the things that he can do in every aspect of the game. I mean, when you talk about like 5 tools, you're talking about a guy who could run the ball down, which we've seen him do. A guy who can throw the ball 100 miles an hour from the outfield accurately, which he can do. A guy who can hit for some power, which we've seen him put. Dude, you got to see his BP. His last round of BP, he just decides he wants to hit homers and just is pulling balls on top of the chop house. It's like he's not trying.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's hitting he's hitting almost 300. He's stealing bags.
He's 10 for 10 in stolen bases, by the way. He stole 3 bases in the last game before the break.
I didn't think that there was anybody who was quicker, first to second or home to second or first to third than Ronnie. But when Mike gets going, I mean, he gets the top speed so fast that he can do things that other people around the league just aren't capable of. So for him, it's going to be consistency, just being able to do it day in and day out.
Yeah.
Buxton is the other guy, I think, in center field that can do some crazy athletic things too. But Mike's arm might separate him to me. His arm is so strong and so accurate.
Yeah.
It's super accurate. And he spins the ball really true too. So he's able to keep that ball on that line for a long time. And he does, you're right, he does remind me a little bit of a lot of Byron out there. Because I've seen him do it for a few years now. And same thing, when he's healthy and he's going out there consistently and posting, I mean, you see in the All-Star game, he's taking a 95, 98 mile an hour fastball above his head and heading out to left. So
he was the best player I saw in spring training. I said, if this guy can stay healthy ever for 150 games, he'd win MVP.
I mean, I remember he was going to be the consensus number 1 overall pick when Houston took Correa ahead of him. And everybody was like, I can't believe this. And Correa's turned into quite the player on his own right. But Byron's always had all that ability. And, to see Mike doing it at 21 years old, it gives you flashes, gives you flashbacks.
Man, it is unbelievable how much not just good talent is coming from George in the last decade, but elite talent.
Yeah,
it is crazy. 2 of the first 4 picks this year, Georgia high school kids. I mean, it's just year after year now.
Yeah, it's kind of a factory, man, and it's not just Atlanta anymore. It's outside of Atlanta, suburbs outside of Atlanta in all directions. It's South Georgia, it's Savannah, it's Columbus, Valdosta. Yeah, we've got great athletes. Between California, Texas, Florida, Georgia. You've got some really elite athletes that are coming out of there, and it's cool to be in Atlanta and have some Atlanta kids around as well. So it feels like home.
Yeah, I think Georgia's starting to bump up against those three that you mentioned as far as being that next state in that group. And I love seeing these two kids from Atlanta being black kids, man. I love seeing that, some black
I
kids
know.
coming out of high school playing baseball at that level.
It's cool,
really
man.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's not enough representation in the game as it is right now, and so to be able to see some young black kids be in the game as early as they are and be as advanced as they are.
Yeah.
I think it speaks a lot to them and their work ethic, obviously, but hopefully also to Major League Baseball's their initiatives to reach out to these communities that honestly that where baseball's not prioritized because it's expensive, it's hard to get into, it's hard to continue to play. So these RBI programs, these inner city baseball programs have been incredible. I've done a lot of these camps over the years and seen some of these kids and the talent that they have at a young age is pretty cool.
Yeah, to see those guys get drafted that high, and then they're going to get these huge signing bonuses. That money talks. When kids see he made how much, I think that gets them a little more interested, in baseball. When you see you can make a lot of money doing this, man, if you're really good.
Baseball's hard, man, because it's a long process. Like we were talking about, like Eric got up at 21, but like that's very much the outlier. That's not the law. Guys like me, like I got up at 25, but it took me 3 years to get my first full big league season. So I was 27 before I kind of stuck in the big leagues. And at that point, you've been grinding on whatever kind of signing bonus you've gotten for 7 or 8 years at that point.
Kyler Murray would just be getting to AAA.
Exactly. Man, it takes that long view.
That contract he just signed, I saw that people were comparing it to Oakland's entire payroll. His average salary per year is going to be over $41 million. It's hard to argue with that.
He made a good choice for himself.
His career might not be nearly as long, and it only takes one hit in the NFL. But that's a lot of money. So you pitched parts of 2 seasons with the Mets. You just alluded to it. Made a handful of starts, handful of relief appearances for them. Went 0-5 with an 8.26 ERA before you were traded to the Rockies in exchange for Eric Young Jr.
That's right.
In July 2013. Baseball's a small world, man, because we had Eric Young Jr. here a couple of years later with the Braves. And now, of course, we got his dad, his first base coach. But small world.
EY, so EY's been he's been great over here for us. And then his son, Junior's now the first base coach over in Washington. So I've gotten to see him a little bit. And it's wild. I thought, I was going to be a Met forever. I was like, I'm going to be with the Mets. This is going to be my team. And then you get traded that first time and you're like, oh, I guess I'm just playing for everybody every day.
You can't be a fan.
That's what happens. You get moving around. I was bad in New York. So I'm going to give all the credit to the fans in New York for giving me a hard time. That was all well deserved. And and Colorado is tough, man. It's tough to pitch there. I was there for about half a season, and then was fortunate enough to stick on in Houston.
That's what I was going to say. You go to the Rockies. You went 0-3 with a 9.95 ERA in 4 starts in 2013. Then you get claimed by Houston on waivers in December 2013.
Yep.
So here's where your story takes a very sharp turn for the better. And I just want to know, what was the biggest key, if there is one for you? I don't think I've asked you this before. And your career really taken off at that point. Because in 2014 with the Astros, you had 11 wins, 2.73 ERA, and 25 starts, 157 strikeouts, and 154 innings. You finished 4th in the AL Rookie of the Year balloting. And that next year, you go 19-7 with the Astros, 3.89 ERA and 32 starts, 171 strikeouts, career high 203 innings, and finished 8th in the Cy Young balloting. So that's a long way from what you did with the Mets and the Rockies to what you did with the Astros.
Yeah. I always tell people it's really not like a magic bullet. At that point, like I said, I was 26, 27 years old, and I felt like I was really figuring out how to pitch. Just at that point, I was kind of a slow burn up until then. I'd always been good enough to make it to that next level, but really not like flourished at all. Yeah. And so I remember I had a couple starts in Colorado Springs. They had sent me down to AAA with Colorado right before September. And I had a couple starts where I was in Colorado Springs. It was like cold and windy. The wind was blowing straight out. can't spin. I couldn't spin a breaking ball there. And I was like, I got to figure out how to pitch with my fastball. And so that's when I started messing around with 4-seamers up, cutters up and in. I remember we faced a lineup that was completely left-handed. And I was like, I'm going to go all like 4-seamers top of the zone, cutters on the hands, and just see what happens. And I had some success. And I thought, okay, well, there might be something to that. And then after the season, I went down and played in Venezuela, down in Caracas. And
like Jackson Stevens.
Yeah, exactly. And started to kind of figure out how to use that mix a little bit better, how to use my curveball more, how to shape my fastball a little bit, and really just be aggressive. And there was some really good talent down there. And I think for me, being able to go down there and have some success and actually like breed a little confidence in myself, made all the difference in the world. Yeah. And then I got claimed by Houston that off season.
So they saw you pitch down there probably.
Probably. Yeah. They saw me. Yeah. I think they had a couple guys down there, who were in the organization, saw me pitch. They were the worst team. They had just lost 100 games 3 years in a row in the big league. And so they obviously had the first pick with waivers. So they claimed me. And I got to kind of learn under Brent Strom a little bit, who to me is kind of the OG in terms of pitching coaches in baseball. And it wasn't anything specific other than, hey, you've got a really good curveball. You need to throw it more. Yeah. And let's work this. Let's get rid of the 2-seamer. You're not throwing many of those anyways, and they're not very good. So let's work this 4-seamer and this cutter to the top of the zone. Let's throw your breaking ball off of it, and let's be as aggressive as we can possibly be in the strike zone. And when you do that, like the stats are the percentages are already skewed in your favor as a pitcher so drastically that really when you throw strike 1, you throw strike 2, you become in the driver's seat no matter what kind of stuff you're out there working with. Right. So for us, and then kind of last year in Tampa, it was really driven home, the way they do things there the same way. You know, you play the percentages and you're going to get a lot of outs. And I was fortunate enough to do that for a couple of years in Houston. And then, I've kind of worked my way from starter to reliever, back to starter, back to reliever, and done a lot of things at this point. So I got a lot of tools under my belt.
Have you always been able to spin the ball like that?
Yeah, I've been throwing a curveball like that, like kind of that big over the top curveball since I was probably like 12 or 13. And then, when I had a little bit of some shoulder tendonitis in 17 in Houston. And so when I was rehabbing from that, I was messing around with our rehab coordinator, trying to throw some sliders. I was like, I think I could probably do it. Yeah. And found a good shape with it and learned that, I could spin it that way too. I could actually spin it faster from that natural arm slide out here rather than trying to climb a little bit with that curveball. Yeah. For me, it was kind of a natural fit.
I always wonder if like, I wanted to ask you this too, if you think spin's something that can be taught, kind of like velocity, but like if it's something that can be taught, or if you think it's something that you're just born with. Because I remember Sean Doolittle trying to learn a slider, and he was just like turning it, like a doorknob. And for me, it just, because I could always spin it, just didn't make sense in my head. Like, how can you not figure this out, man? You're in the big leagues. Right. He's had a great career, but he couldn't figure out how to spin the ball. And then there's other guys that, like you're saying, from the time you were 11, you just knew how to spin a ball and it just came natural. But there's a lot of guys that just can't quite grasp how to throw that front half of the ball or get on the side of it or top of it. So I wanted to ask you if you think that's just something you were born with or something you learned even as a kid.
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think that guys are going to spin the ball generally how they're going to spin it. Like, I think guys' hand and arm and wrist kind of works in a certain way, the way it comes through their slot, whatever it is. Some guys like Kenley can turn it like this. Their hand naturally comes through a little bit supinated, and they can kind of cut the ball like that. Some guys like you, like Venters, who can come through and kind of get on the inside of that ball and really be able to turn it over and be able to pronate well. You can sink the ball. And then usually guys who can sink it like that are also guys who can go the other way and spin it like that. But then you get the Doolittles of the world who really are able to stay straight through the ball and ride it through the zone, which I have a hard time doing. Like from my slot, being able to do that. So that's its own skill in and of itself.
Yep.
Wow. When you see Pedro, it reminds me of when Pedro Martinez would show what he could do with his fingers, how double jointed he was with everything.
Dude, his hands are like that long too.
Yeah.
Right? Like his fingers go out and up, and he is on a different level.
Born to pitch.
Yes.
That's great, man. What you're saying about what Kenley does, why Kenley's able to throw a cutter for a while. I mean, he's throwing 98-mile-an-hour cutters at his peak of his powers.
Hey, this year he's hit 97 this year a couple times. Like
Dodgers game, he did.
He's got it. He's got it in the tank right now, and he's been able to mix it up a little bit. He can kind of sink the ball every once in a while, kind of get inside and get that run. But for the most part, he's like here, and he is coming right at you and cutting that ball.
Yeah,
he's getting 10 inches of cut on a ball with 18 inches of hop. So that ball, it's a completely unicorn pitch. Like nobody can throw that pitch in baseball.
Wow.
It's hard to hit. I remember asking one of my first years, I was watching Mariano Rivera pitch, and I asked Raul Ibanez, I was like, Raul, he's throwing cutter. Why don't you just like swing where it's going to be? And he's like, buddy, we can't track it. Like our eyes lie to us. Because you can't lie to your eyes and just swing in a spot where you think it's going to be. We see it. It looks good. We know it's going to cut. And then it just cuts way more than our eyes can process, and we can't hit it. But he just looked at me like, dude, you don't think we thought of that? Sitting cutter? He was like, we're all sitting cutter. I was like, oh, man, I need to shut up.
Hitting's hard, dude. Hitting is so hard, but especially when guys are throwing this kind of stuff they're throwing now, I'm like, I have no idea how guys do this. I just imagine that when I'm going up to the mound, they see me coming out and guys are just like sprinting to the box. They're like, I cannot wait. This is
92.
Somebody who's not throwing.
I can handle that.
So you followed the same kind of career path, location wise, as Charlie. You went Houston, Tampa, Atlanta. And speaking of spin, have you seen anybody that spins it quite the way Charlie does? Because I only say that because I've never seen anybody when I look at spin rate, like I can look at a Strider's velo, like on a StatCast, and he'll have the top 30 velocity pitches of all the pitchers in that game usually. Yeah. There was an exception when he pitched against St. Louis because their guy came in and was throwing 102. But Charlie's that way with spin rate because he'll have like the top 40 spin rates in a game. Yeah. All these 3,300 and stuff. How does Charlie spin the ball so much better than most other guys?
That's the same thing, dude. He's this unicorn. The way I remember him saying like he used to when he was in his early years, early in Atlanta, and then when he got to Pittsburgh, he kept trying to make it like a 12-6, like straight over the top.
Yeah.
And so he was having to kind of climb his arm path up a little bit to get on top of it. He's like, when I stopped and I could just kind of like let my arm get that natural spot, his hand kind of stays on the side of it like this. So he's able to spin it more easily coming through it that way than he is coming through it that way. And yeah, the way his whippy arm is, like his shoulders are incredibly loose. He's got like the longest arm span in baseball. His natural measurables are just different than most guys. Yeah. And so what he's able to do, and he kind of spikes it, right? So he's got one finger up and one finger down, and he's able to put a lot of pressure on that pointer finger and really get through the ball like that. But yeah, he spins it at 32 to 34, really, like, which is it's kind of incredible. Jackson Stevens can spin one. Pretty high too in the 3100s. But the thing that separates them, spin rate's like, it's a nice measurable because you can look at it and see like, okay, generally when guys spin it hard, it's going to have movement. But the thing that matters the most is the actual movement patterns of the ball. And what Charlie's able to do is have depth of 15 inches and horizontal of 15 to 20 inches, which you'll see lefties especially. You'll see them track it. And they're like, it's just gone.
Not there.
By the time they're swinging, it's gone, it's fun to watch when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, that slurve used to be a pitch that it was almost eliminated when you were like when I came into the game. That's what I threw. Early 2000s, mid 2000s. The slurve was kind of looked at as just a bootleg pitch, not something they wanted. They either wanted to see 12-6 curveball, a lot of straight down break, or they wanted a tight slider. Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing a lot of guys throw that and realize the value in all that horizontal movement.
Yeah, you're right. It's another pitch in and of itself, being able to throw a ball that does both, that breaks plane this way and breaks plane that way. So, if you can do it, especially with some velocity, which him, outright, Lance McCullers, you see these guys who can throw it in like the mid to high 80s. When you're throwing a breaking ball like that, it becomes devastating.
Yeah, physically, you're talking about Charlie, man. You look at Charlie, and it's like he was just put on earth to pitch. The way that guy's put
100%.
together, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin Brown was like that when I covered him with the Marlins before he got
Kevin-
really big. But he was put
He was
together.
throwing,
fit through a
97
doorway.
mile an hour sinkers, and he could paint. He had like
Yeah.
really good command.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fun to watch. I mean, not against the Braves, but
And his nastiness was evident in the fact that he had pinpoint command, and he also led the league in hit batters that year.
he wasn't afraid. Yeah, he wasn't afraid.
No, he was the king of the purpose pitch, man. So yeah, you had 30 wins and a 3.39 ERA in a 2-year span with the Astros. 328 strikeouts, 358 innings. That next year was, I think you had one more full year in their rotation, and your ERA jumped up to 4.48. 12 starts the following year. Then you go to the bullpen and just took off. I mean, you had a 1.99 ERA and 58 appearances in 2018, your first year in the bullpen. So was you just ready at that point of your career to transition to the pen, or how'd that work out?
no, I just got you when you've got Justin Verlander,
Yeah.
Matt Greinke,
It's tough
Garrett
draw.
Cole, Lance McCullers,
Yeah.
Dallas Keuchel. Like I was kind of the odd man out when it came to it, and so I had a little bit of experience in the playoffs in 2017, thrown out of the pen. They liked what they saw. I think my stuff played up just a little bit, and then in 2018, they were kind of like, "All right, we're gonna put you in the pen. We're gonna see how it plays." And it was kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant for me because I had no idea how to do it. Really, it'd been a long time, so I was leaning on a lot of those guys. You know, the Luke Gregerson and Will Harris and Pat Neshek, and some of these guys who had been around for a long time and been good relievers in baseball, and trying to figure out what a routine looks like and how to work out and when to throw and how much to throw. So it was all new for me. And when I got out there to actually pitch, I was like, just get outs, just get as many outs as you can get. And that was my whole goal. And so whether I was going 1 inning or 3 innings, I was just like, I've got one job to do. And I feel pretty confident in my ability to do it. So yeah, I had some success there. I opted out in 2020 because with the pandemic and everything. And just didn't feel right to keep playing in the middle of that, especially up in Boston. I was away from my family and couldn't do it. But yeah, then last year in 2021, had a chance to go down and play in Tampa and learn down there and compete some more. And yeah, it's kind of all come together in a way that makes sense in my brain now.
You had a couple of our favorite guys there in Houston behind the plate with B-Mac and Gaddis.
Two of the best teammates of all time. Truly, two of the best guys. I still try and talk to him as often as I can. Every once in a while, I'll get a random FaceTime from Evan Gaddis. He's always like shirtless in a garage, just like so happy. I love that guy.
In Colorado,
Yeah.
some ski resort in Colorado. His girlfriend's at the bar working.
Exactly.
That guy's out there, man. Love that guy. Eccentric. Love him. So you had BMAC for a couple of years, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's. I mean, I'll tell anybody who is willing to listen. He's probably the reason that we were so successful as a pitching staff that year.
Yeah.
His ability to really just have relationships with pitchers, pump their tires when they need to, tell them how good they are, tell them how nasty their stuff is, and also think through the game. I don't think anybody that I've seen, besides maybe Travis d'Arnaud, does a really, really amazing job of reading swings as they're happening and reading at bats, as the game goes on. But Brian was kind of the first guy that I'd ever seen be able to do that super consistently and have that just Rolodex of a memory to know what we had done last time, what we need to do this time, and what he thinks the hitter's definitely trying to do right now. And so many times, man, he would hit on all three of those.
He's so invested.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every single pitch. I tell Dave all the time whenever he comes up that, I'd always go up in the room and have a beer, hang out with him and David Ross after games. And these guys would be torn up over the long man. The long man gave up one run in an 8-0 blowout, and they're torn up and going over this pitch they called that they knew they blew. And it blew my mind because I was like, I can't believe these guys care that much because I forgot it even happened. And they're up talking until midnight about what they need to do next time. And, they can't have him throwing a changeup in this count to Carlos Lee. And I'm just like, I've never seen guys that invested, and BMAC was the king of it.
It's so good, man. And then, yeah, you're right. It's how much they care, and you have to know and trust that they care that much, because when they put something down,
I never shake.
no, you're like, I believe it. I believe that
Yeah.
this is the right one.
Gives you so much confidence.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and he's the best, man. I'm really happy to be a Brave, but like, I'm really happy to be closer to that organization that I saw him come up and I saw him kind of become the guy he was.
Yep.
And then to see it kind of come full circle through New York, through Houston, and back to Atlanta on the back end, man. It was fun for me to watch as a fan, him be able to come home and kind of do what he's doing with this young group of guys that really needed it at the time. And you're kind of seeing the fruit of that now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Indelible impression on the organization, man. People forget how great of a hitter he was. Not good, great hitter he was in his first 5, 6, 7 years.
I think he won 6 Silver Sluggers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Hank Aaron didn't do that.
I know.
At the start of his career. I mean, he did things that were like, people forget how great a hitter he was, man. And then he became, I obviously was a great defensive catcher, but the way he called games and the relationship, because Eric talks about it too. It changed Eric's career.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he taught me the value of complimenting people too. You know, just he will come up to you and just tell you this stuff that makes you feel like nobody can hit you. You know, he'll tell you how great your slider is. And, you know, I mean, guys, you just don't get compliments like that in a big league clubhouse. You know, nobody goes out of their way and tells you how nasty you are. But the next time he calls it in a game, you're like, oh, yeah, you know, this is that dirty slider he was talking about he wants right there. And then you throw a nasty pitch. You know, he taught me a lot about life.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's this, we talked about this like cycle of success and confidence and kind of what's chicken or the egg, like which one comes first, right? So you have some success and it breeds confidence, and then you have more success and it breeds more confidence. Or do you have to build confidence out of kind of thin air and then go have success to reinforce it? And I think the best players, the best coaches are the people who can instill that confidence on the front end, so that when you go out there, you're already standing a little bit taller. You know, you're already feeling a little bit, your chest is out a little bit more. And you know that when you throw this pitch, it's going to be a good one. And then you have success, and it reinforces that. So you go do it again the next time. So it's hard, but it's a huge part of the game. Yeah, it's one of those kind of intangibles. That's
one of those hurdles too that is so hard for young players like Kyle Wright. You see what he can do now that he has confidence, but you see guys, that's why the clubhouse is so valuable, and why I think the Braves get so much success out of young players, because it used to be you get called up and you're 25th man on the roster. Guys aren't even saying hi to you, you know, and now these guys come up to the game and they're a part of things right away, and guys are pumping them up. If you go up to the wrong clubhouse as a young guy and your confidence is already kind of low, because nobody comes up to the big leagues thinking they're just going to tear it up. But if you come up to a clubhouse that pumps you up and makes you feel welcome right away, I think that's one of the big changes that's helped young players in the game, is kind of getting rid of all that hazing and you don't belong type of stuff and you got to earn it. And now it's shifted to, you know, giving guys confidence and making them feel like a part of it right away. I think that's a big hurdle that a lot of young guys are able to get over a lot faster now.
I mean, without a doubt, there's the idea of a kid coming up to play and being told or being made to believe that he's doesn't deserve to be there is insane.
Then go out there.
It's insane. You need that guy to play. You need that guy to play well. Like that guy's got to throw meaningful innings. That guy's got to get a big hit. Yeah. And you're gonna like haze him and like cut his shorts up and tell him like, oh, you don't deserve to be here. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael Harris. Yeah. You would not want to be hazing Michael Harris right now.
No, you want him at peak. He's made
I want him hitting homers, and then I'm going to pump his tires when he's done and tell him how good he is, and let him go do it again the next day.
Do it again tomorrow.
How about that guy? How mature he is, man. He just sits over there quietly, reads and everything before the games. I mean, he's just does his thing, man.
It's funny to see different personalities at play in the clubhouse, because you know, not everybody is the same, and that's the great thing about baseball.
Yeah.
You know, you go out on the field and you might not even have the same personality that you do on the field off the field. So.
Right.
Yeah, Mike's super quiet. You know, I think he's still trying to learn where he fits in a clubhouse. I mean, it took me 4 years before I like
Yeah.
was able to look people in the eye in the clubhouse because I was like, I don't know, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody. Don't notice me, please. Like, I
Yeah,
just want
the
to stay here.
invisible.
But yeah, the more comfortable guys get, it's fun to see their personalities kind of come out and which things kind of light them up, you know. And I think that with these young guys, the longer we're around each other and the more time we get to spend around each other, the better it's going to be, and the more comfortable they're going to get, and the more comfortable we're all going to get.
Yeah, I mean, you got extroverts and you got introverts, and you can't just change that, you know, in the clubhouse. But then he gets on the field, and the guy looks totally comfortable doing everything, you know, making diving catches and all that. Then he sits in the clubhouse and he's just quiet.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Right. I know.
I used to do my workouts in a closet or something because I had all these weird back exercises I had to do when I was a rookie. So I hurt my back. It's like, I don't want to get crushed for this. I'd go find just like the most obscure area just out of everybody's sight to get my routine in so I didn't get crushed. But you think about it and you're like, what if a guy was too nervous to do his normal routine to go into a game?
Absolutely. I mean, there's things that you have to do every day. Yeah. And if you feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I could do that. I remember talking to me and Matsy were talking about it. And Matzik was like, dude, when I got to Colorado, he's like, I sat in my locker. Yeah. I looked into my locker. He turned around. He's like, I knew somebody was going to yell at me, like, look back. Don't look at me. Don't look back to me.
Wow.
It's so different now.
Got to know the back of my locker really well.
Yeah. See, you think about the difference. You know, for me, it made a big difference coming to Atlanta because you think about the difference between that feeling of I just stare into my locker, I'm walking on eggshells, and then I walk outside when I'm supposed to for BP. You know, and that's your routine. It's just don't be noticed versus a catcher that's winning silver sluggers every year and an all-star coming up to you and telling you how nasty you are. The confidence you take into the game with that is totally different. Absolutely.
100%. You know, that's my favorite. My favorite thing is to tell guys how good they are. Cause I'm like, that's the best thing. If it's the best thing you hear today, then that's perfect because I'm going to need that in 2 days. And when I throw a nasty slider, I need you to come over and be like, hey, that's the one.
Yeah.
I need that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, just to wrap this up, Snit seems like a real good guy to have as far as having a team that's got, like you said, the oldest bullpen in the league, but you got a couple of rookies that are making standout contributions in other parts. You got a mix, and you've had that really the whole run of 4 division titles. He seems like a really good manager to have on a team like that.
Yeah, you know, his breadth of experience, I think, working with young guys in the minor leagues for a long time, he still knows that mentality. And at the end of the day, he's kind of from the Bobby Cox mold where it's, hey, we're staying here. You know, we're trying to win series. And if you win series, you're going to win 95 to 100 games. You win 95 to 100 games, you're probably going to win the division. You win the division, you're going to give yourself a chance in the playoffs. And that's kind of the progression that you make. So every day doesn't feel so big. You know, every day feels like you're going out, you're going to play hard. We're going to see what happens. And then at the end of the series, we'll see where we're at. At the end of the week, at the end of the homestand, we'll see where we're at. At the end of this first half, you know, you can look back and, you know, he can say, you know, we've done some really good work. We got 70 more games left. Let's go tackle these games kind of one series at a time. And that calming personality and the not getting too up or too down or too flustered by really anything is it's what you're looking for in a manager. To be honest, you know, we've got coaches to specifically coach each of these areas of the game, but the manager is the person managing the personalities in the clubhouse, managing the temperament, and really just kind of figuring out, like we had 5 show and goes in a row where we were coming to the field, no BP, just come to the field, get ready and go play because he knew we were in the middle of a 21 game in a row stretch and we needed them. And so being able to see that and kind of a guy just has some feel, you know, that's what you're looking for. A guy has some feel and Snit's got that.
Other managers are scared to do that because of how it looks from the box up top. You know, if you lose today and you had a show and go, you know, he doesn't manage for any of that. But I think you can see it how he runs the bullpen too, because he'll get criticized a lot of times for you're down 1 or 2 runs and people want him to bring in Minter. And he understands that, you know, you're not going to win every day, but if I start using my studs every single game, they're going to be burnt out at the end of the year. And he doesn't seem to manage to answer questions at all.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys do. You're right. Like you manage because you know the percentages. You know you're like, okay, the percentages say if I play this card, then this is probably the outcome we will get. And then if it doesn't happen, you can go, well, I played the percentages.
Yeah,
I
right.
did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But like I said, being able to have some feel and being able to, hey, he's 3 out of 5. He's 6 out of 10, but he's warmed up 4 times in those other days. You just got to know, like, generally where your guys are at. And that goes to communication from the bullpen coach from the player to the bullpen coach to the pitching coach to the manager, and kind of this 360, mentality where everybody is really looking all the way around them, seeing, okay, what's happening in these different areas of the game, and how do we make sure that we're all kind of pulling in the right direction? And so far, we've done a pretty good job of that.
And that's one thing that people outside of organization, when they're watching on TV, and I don't blame them, because how would they know? But I wish they would keep that in mind, that there's so much more going on than what you see. There's a reason why he didn't bring that guy in. There's a reason why this is the guy pitching. Believe me, he's got more invested in winning the game than you do at home. He's trying.
Yeah, context is key here. And baseball's a long season. So I get it. As a fan, which I'm still a huge fan, a huge baseball fan, it's very easy to get wrapped up in the day and in the individual day. And I remember when I was a kid and I was watching Braves games, and I'd wake up the next morning, and if I saw that they lost, I was like, I'm not going to go watch the replay of that game. I don't need to see that. I don't want to see how they lost. But if they won, I was like, ooh, I need to go back and figure out, see what happened, see how they won. So you're really invested day to day, which as the coaches and the players, we kind of have to have a little bit of a longer view of things, so that hopefully when October rolls around, we're there, we're on our best, we're playing our best baseball, we're at our healthiest, and we're ready to make a run like we did last year.
Awesome. All right, man. You gave me way more time than we could have expected. Really appreciate it. Thanks. I know you got to get to the park and all that. So thanks so much. It was awesome. Really appreciated you talking.
This was a blast. Let's go win some ball games.
All right. Thanks
a
for
lot,
coming on,
Colin. 7:55 is real. We're out. Appreciate it, everybody.